Welcome to Episode 2 of the Spokane County podcast, On the Plan. This is our weekly opportunity to share with you what's happening on the inside right now to craft Spokane County's comprehensive plan update for 2026. This document will guide county planners as commercial areas, residential areas, parks, roads, and capital infrastructure are all built out to 2046 and beyond. I'm your host, Tom MacArthur. Our guests this week are two of the planners who will be doing this work, Tate Andrie and Bongo Thompson. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom.
Question one goes to you, Tate. The housing section of the 2026 plan will create a framework for housing in the county over the next 20 years. How do you do that?
So the bulk of it is through goals and policies, making sure we address housing needs identified by everyone in the community, but also supported by data. What we go through is analyzing the data, but also meeting with stakeholders and elected officials and doing community outreach to create this framework. But overall, the goal is to ensure that affordable housing gets built that enhances the quality of life in Spokane, as well as supports programs that aid those experiencing homelessness.
Must be a good feeling to know that your work affects so many people.
For sure. Yeah, it's nice to be involved with all sorts of groups as well that are passionate about the topic.
Indeed. Bongo, a big concern with housing these days is affordability. How will the plan consider affordability and, perhaps more importantly, help increase affordable housing in Spokane County?
Yeah, as Tate mentioned, housing affordability is really the main crux of the housing element, and it comes in several ways. Firstly, we have targets for affordability, housing affordability that we're seeking. That's in consultation with the Department of Commerce, the Office of Financial Management, as well as our own planning work and local jurisdictions. And what we currently see is that we have a deficit of affordable housing on the lower end of the economic spectrum. People who are making, 0 to 80% of the area median income, let's say. So we're going to be looking at that area very strongly and trying to see how we can increase opportunities for people in those income bands. And we can do that in a variety of different ways. We can look at different zoning. If one zone or another might be better for affordability, we can try and tweak development regulations to hopefully increase the level of affordable housing that gets built. And ultimately what we're going to be doing is trying to meet those housing targets that I alluded to earlier. And that's really going to be the main crux of how we're going to target it.
Tate, with the new state requirements that I've read, I understand the housing section of the 2026 plan will be more detailed than ever before. What can we expect in the final report?
Yeah, there are a couple of notable House bills, a big one being House Bill 1220, which addresses the affordability issues that Bongo just talked about. But what we're going to do is inventory and analyze all of our housing needs. And so that's going to be through those various incomes that Bongo touched on, but making sure we have permanently supportive housing and emergency housing for those that need it. We also have to identify sufficient land for those housing needs we need to meet, and that's through our land capacity analysis that our colleague Graham Zicafus is working on. And then ultimately we have to make adequate provisions to meet those housing needs. So looking at funding opportunities and adjusting our regulations. And lastly, an important one is addressing disparate impacts such as displacement and exclusion based on race in the housing market, which has been a historical practice across the country for some time that we need to work to undo and support those marginalized groups.
We're talking this week with Spokane County planners Tate Andrie and Bongo Thompson. Thank you both for sharing about your work here today, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Our planning quote this week comes from investor and philanthropist Warren Buffett, who said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." Got a question? Send it in. You'll find our email link on the page where you started this podcast. Thanks for listening.